Welcome to the MusicNut Program. I'm John. Thank you so much for joining me today. And on today's edition, I accept the Holy Trinity Challenge for 2025 from Stephen Schnee, the CD Junkie. Steve has put out a video where he talks about what he calls the Holy Trinity for bands and artists, and has asked some of us who have YouTube channels and for people who watch to make their own videos or make their own lists of their Holy Trinity. So I put a link to his video in the description. Definitely check out Steve Schnee's channel if you have not already. He has a lot of knowledge and a lot of passion for what he does. He focuses more on pop music, but he can go on in depth on pop music more than anybody I know. Great channel. I always love checking out what he has going on. So I have 10 bands or artists that I could put in my list. Here are the rules. Take any band who has five or more, or artist who has five or more albums in their catalog. Give your three favorites, which you would consider the band's Holy Trinity, but they have to have been released consecutively. No live albums, no compilations. Just to give you an example. Rush. Say you were to say Caress of Steel, 2112, and Farewell to Kings. But they have a live album in there. All the World's a Stage. You cannot count All the World's a Stage, but you could count Caress of Steel, 2112, and Farewell to Kings. So live albums don't count. Compilations of any kind do not count. Let me go over my 10 for you right now. Now, I'm going to run the gamut as far as variety here. I'm going to try to stay away from some low-hanging fruit, just to let you know that. My first one is the band. Music from Big Pink. Self-titled second album, also called the Brown Album, and Stage Frights. These were released in 1968, 69, and 70, respectively. To me, this is their best work. And I do love Northern Lights, Southern Cross a lot. I do love their live albums. Before the Flood with Bob Dylan, I think is a fantastic live album. Thank you, Mom, for picking me up the vinyl a few years ago. But to me, this is their best work, these first three. And I don't think Stage Fright gets the recognition that the other two do because it didn't have as many popular songs. The Brown Album has a lot of popular songs by the band on here. But the band is my first, and it's the first three albums. My next one is Black Sabbath. Now, any longtime fans, many of them will tell you the first six are the best albums. A lot of them will put in Heaven and Hell, the first album with Ronnie James Dio and lead vocals. I would not, but the first six, in my opinion, are the best. But question is, which three are your Holy Trinity? Well, I know what my three are. They are the third album from 1971, Master of Reality. Their fourth album from 1972, Vol 4. And their fifth album from 1973, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. Okay, the next one, follow my channel or follow me on other videos, is my favorite band, Little Feat. Now, this one was a little difficult, but I have to go with my head and my heart here and go with Sailing Shoes from 1972, which is their second album. Dixie Chicken from 1973, album 3. And album 4, Feet Don't Fail Me Now from 1974. A part of me wanted to go with the first album, the self-titled album from 1971 first. Because as much as I love Feet Don't Fail Me Now, I'm not high on the recording. But I can't deny it being in their top 3 because a lot of these songs are still played live. In fact, they still hit this album more than any other album when they play live these days. So that's why I went with Pete's Don't Fail Me Now in my Holy Trinity. And these are all deluxe editions. Sailing Shoes and Dixie Chicken are 2 CDs, and Pete's Don't Fail Me Now are 3 CDs. We got a lot of outtakes and live material on these. So my next one is another one who was on fire in the 1970s, this artist. But where do you go? What's your Holy Trinity for Joni Mitchell? Well, I'll tell you mine. Blue isn't in there. As much as I love Blue, that's my 4th favorite. But my Holy Trinity is Court and Spark from 1974, The Hissing of Summer Lawns from 1975, and Hijira from 1976. I loved when Joni Mitchell went into more of a jazz direction. These are my favorite records. Hey, my next one, sticking with the 70s again. Mott the Hoople. 1971's Brain Capers. 1972's All the Young Dudes. 1973's Mott. Although I did consider Hoople from 1974. My next artist is Ted Nugent. And a lot of people who know Ted's catalog would probably agree with me on which are the best 3 studio albums. The first three studio albums are fantastic. Self-Titled from 1975. Free for All from 1976. Cat Scratch Fever from 1977. Ted was still playing live until very recently. When you went to see him, these 3 albums took up the meat of the live set. Next, I'm going to go out of the 70s. I'm going to go into the 80s, and I'm going to go with the Replacements. This is their original album series. And my 3 favorites are in this collection. And they do have 7 studio albums, so they count. Let It Be from 1984. Tim from 1985. And Pleased to Meet Me from 1987. And now I go into the 90s. And the 90s was a little harder for me because a lot of those bands didn't put out the huge catalogs like the bands from the previous decades did. Or sometimes I was just missing an album here and there. But this band, I have all of their studio albums, and to me, this one was pretty easy. Toad the Wet Sprocket. 1991, Fear. From 1994, we have Dulcinea. And from 1997, we have Coil. Now, in 1995, they put out an album called In Light Syrup, but that was a compilation album. It had that big hit, Good Intentions, which was also on the Friends soundtrack, but that doesn't count in the Holy Trinity Challenge. Next, I'm wearing the t-shirt. War. All Day Music from 1971. This was their 3rd album, and the first one without Eric Burden on lead vocals. The World is a Ghetto from 1972. Delivered a Word from 1973. That one was tough because Why Can't We Be Friends was really close too from 75. But I like Delivered a Word a little bit. And my last one, and I think a lot of fans would say this is this band's Holy Trinity, is Yes. The Yes album from 1971. This was their 3rd album. Well, I'm sorry, that's from 1970. Fragile, their fourth album from 1971, and Close to the Edge, their fifth album from 1972, which is an album I love. But those are clearly my favorite three. Relayer would would probably be in the conversation. 90125 would be in the conversation, even though they had a totally different sound by now. So these are my Holy Trinity for 10 bands. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of these bands and what you think their Holy Trinity would be. Also, give me bands that I did not discuss and tell me what you think their Holy Trinity is. Please let me know in the comments. Just to give you some programming notes, Chris Whitley Wednesday continues on Wednesday, February 12, 2025. On that show, I will be discussing Chris Whitley's fifth album from 2000, Live at Martyrs. I just put out a Album Wars show yesterday, which would have been Saturday, February 8th. The album Wars for On the Beach, Neil Young's album with that title from 1974 against Chris Ria's album from 1986 with that title. I will also be making an appearance on Tim's Vinyl Confessions on February 17. That is a Monday. And he and I will be discussing the latest release by Thin Lizzy, The Acoustic Sessions. So, thank you all so much for joining me today. Again, put in the comments below what your Holy Trinity would be. Till I see you again, do what you love, and I'll talk to you soon.